Hello from Central Virginia. Sometimes you just have to say goodbye. And today I'm going to say goodbye to some of my plants that have done their thing. And now it is time for them to go. This is always a hard thing for me because I just want them to keep growing. But you know, for some plants, their time comes. And I have several whose time has definitely come. So it's time to say goodbye. But I'm going to plant a couple new things in their place. You can't really see this, but this is the squash plant, and it is basically done. It is done. It is now completely kaput. All good things come to an end. Everything. I'm just going to cut it off at the base. Oh, look at all the roots that this thing grew along the way. It's a vine, so it just keeps on going. Oh my gosh, we've still got some squash on here, and we can go ahead and harvest those. These are the costata romanesca. Costata romanesca. And these are really nice for baking and roasting and stuffing, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. It doesn't matter when they get this large. They're actually hold their sweetness and their freshness. So that's good. We'll put them in the harvest basket. This plant is going to go to the compost. And I'm on the fence, a little bit ambivalent about this squash plant because it's still producing flowers, but not that much. Let's look at the other decisions that need to be made in this area about planting. Now I need to think about what is going to be happening in this area. That big, huge clump of green, this is a pineapple ground cherry, and it's really taking over, and I'm actually going to be cutting that pretty soon. Why would I do such a thing? Well, I've got some cucumbers that are coming up here, and they will be coming into fruiting. These are little Roseland white cucumbers. They will start to fruit in, probably later in August. So this little patch of ground here is good for growing something, but the question is, what should I grow here and how? It needs to be a fairly fast growing thing or either a fall crop. Now here, along this arch trellis on the left-hand side, right-hand side is melons. Left-hand side, I have one of my favorite squash plants. And this is one of the reasons why I want to be a little bit conservative about planting more squash. This is a Trumbosino squash, and this is, it's a young one right here. This is only a few days old. The Trumbosino squash is an excellent, excellent summer squash. And my family actually likes it more than zucchini. It's our favorite summer squash. And it'll start producing from now until, well, from now on. What we'll do at some point is stop picking them as young squash and then letting them mature into very long. They get to be about like 3.5 to 4 feet long. Squash that are basically like pumpkin. They're winter squash, and we'll use them as winter squash. So I don't want to necessarily plant a whole bunch of summer squash in this area, but I think 1 or 2 more plants might be a nice complement to the Trumbosino that will start to come in. It's amazing when you discover, when you cut some plants out, here's some really nice eggplants that we're growing and we're getting large to harvest. So I'm going to go ahead and pick these, and I think I'm going to grill them tonight. Another benefit of cleaning out your garden. Wow, would you look at that marigold? Can you believe I planted that from seed, and look what it's doing? It's just taking over. Another thing I'm going to say goodbye to is this particular borage plant, which is doing no good at this point. I've got new borage coming up here, and I'm going to go ahead and plant this pick this older one out so that we can give this area a little bit of room to expand into. We have these marigolds, loads and loads and loads of basil and peppers as well, and a watermelon back there growing up the trellis. Borage is a wonderful plant. It is not a native plant, but the pollinators really love it, and I love having it grow. Now I can actually see what's growing back there, which is a good thing. A couple more things I got to say goodbye to. I'm going to say goodbye to some sunflowers. Go ahead and plant some squash in this space so that it grows up and we have some yellow squash. I think I'm just going to put this about right over here. This is a lot of mulch that's in this area, and I'm just going to move that mulch out of the way to plant this. These are all no-dig beds, so the wonderful thing about that is when they're ready, you can just plant into them. I'm just loosening the soil up a tiny little bit, and we're going to plant this thing right here. Ultimately, I'm going to pull this out once this squash is ripe. The squash I'm planting is just an early prolific straight neck squash, and it will mature super fast. It will probably germinate in just maybe 2, 3 days, 3 days maybe, and we'll be producing squash probably in by the beginning of September. I'll plant a bunch of seeds just to make sure they actually get going. Squash seeds you can plant anytime. In my growing season, I have a very long growing season. So I expect that I can be harvesting these squash through October. This would be very nice. Here, we'll just water that in and let it be. So in a few more days, I'll come along and I'll just pull this one out, cut it off. So once I've got that watered in, then we'll have this area up and ready for a subsequential second planting. So we'll have some cucumbers growing up down here. These marigolds will come to maturity, and we'll have another squash plant growing down here. I love the way that squash plants just sort of take over a space. Doesn't bother me a bit to have aisle space taken up by squash plants. And it also makes it a little bit easier for me to go ahead and check them for things like squash bugs and stuff like that. So if you love to garden and you love to cook what you grow, this might be a channel for you, and I invite you to subscribe and help me grow my channel. I've been at this for about a year, and I have been very excited to meet people from really all over the place. It's a new adventure for me. I'm a retired teacher, and so it's really, really nice to have a forum and have a way to connect with people and help people learn as I learn. I always said when I was a teacher, one of the best things about being a teacher was that I learned alongside my students. And that's kind of the way I feel about this garden and about this channel. So at any rate, that's just a little bit about me. I hope you're well. Take care. Bye.